Hey there. So it's finally Batman Day. And so for the last installment of Batman Week here, we're going to go all the way back to May 1939. And we're going to be taking a look at Detective Comics number 27, which is the first appearance of Batman in a comic book. Um, I'm not rich, so I don't own an original version. So we're going to be taking a look at a facsimile edition today because, the original costs millions of dollars now. So, yeah, maybe if the YouTube channel really takes off for me, I can afford to get one day, but not right now. So, this here is the facsimile edition that came out a while ago from DC, but this year for Batman Day, they're doing a new version, and that's kind of what I want to look at here today, is this one. So, this is the one that came out for San Diego Comic Convention this year. I didn't attend San Diego this year, but I was able to get this off of the Electronic Bay. So what this is a replica edition of the first comic, but done at the original size too. So comics back in the 30s, were bigger than they are now. So this is the original book, modern size. So this here is the original size. It's closer to the original format of what came out. But for San Diego, they did a Batman 85th anniversary cover by Dan Mora. And so this is Christian Bale's Batman Begins on the Detective 27 cover. And so if we open up here, here's the original cover. So, it's a takeoff of that. And, inside we have a glossy cover, but we have more newsprint, kind of rougher pages, which would be closer to the original book. So that's kind of nice. And again, this is a facsimile edition, so we have all the original ads and everything that were in the book. So this is basically as close as you can get to the real thing anymore. So the first page here, on the inside cover, we have this little blurb that says "Crime Never Pays." So what we sort of have here is almost like a Ripley's Believe It or Not. It looks like these are like sort of true crime and like police stories here. Then we get into, the first story here. The reason we're here is The Batman by Robert Kane, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate. So this is the first Batman story. Now, people have said that it is very similar to a Shadow story called The Partners of Peril. I'm not familiar with that story, but people are saying if you, kind of go back to back with them, you could definitely see how this influenced this Batman story, and I think it's about 3 years before this. So it starts off, we have Bruce Wayne, this sort of socialite, hanging out with Commissioner Gordon. When Gordon gets a call about a murder, Bruce Wayne just kind of goes to hang out with him, so he goes to the scene of the crime, and we find out that this guy Lambert has been killed. And as the story unfolds, we find out there are other, sort of businessmen that are being threatened here. We have Batman showing up for the first time here on a rooftop fighting some criminals and kind of continuing the investigation, trying to get ahead of the murderers. We have there's a few guys that are implicated in this scheme. One of them goes to check on the other one. These guys are both potential victims. The one guy gets the drop on him and puts him in this giant glass jar that he says he uses for his experiments to kill guinea pigs. But as we can see down here, this guy and Batman both fit in this, so I don't know what size guinea pigs this guy is killing, but he's definitely prepared. We then see Batman use a wrench to break through the glass. Now, there was a recent first appearance Batman action figure done by Todd McFarlane, and he came with this blue wrench, and at first everybody's like, what's the blue wrench about? But it's from this scene. I think it's actually the only tool or weapon Batman uses in this first story, so that's why they included it with the action figure. But here we have, Batman apprehending the criminals and kind of figuring out the scheme. First appearance here, we've got the really kind of lower ears that kind of stick out further. And again, we have the purple gloves in this first appearance. We don't have the longer gloves with the spikes on them like we're used to seeing. But, this is still obviously Batman here. So yeah, then we have the sort of iconic ending here where Batman punches the bad guy over the railing and he dies in a vat of acid. Later on, Commissioner Gordon is sort of reminiscing about the case, but kind of doesn't think very highly of Bruce Wayne as just sort of being a layabout. Then we find out at the end that this Bruce Wayne guy is the Batman, and that's kind of like a big twist ending here at the story, and really, this is the only time you could ever do that. Yeah, I mean, Batman's pretty well known these days. Everybody knows Bruce Wayne is Batman, so it's interesting that that was kind of set up as a mystery here in this first issue. Yeah, so like that's it. That's the first Batman story, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, and it's 6 pages. So 6 pages, 85 years later, it's sort of the media juggernaut. So the rest, most comics back then were anthologies. So this is only the beginning of this book, so we've still got quite a bit here. So we have sort of a more cartoony one-page sort of comic strip. Then we have Speed Saunders. So we have other kind of mystery detective stories throughout the book after this by, various different cartoonists. And we got, this Buck Marshall here, which is almost more of a Western sort of a detective story. So, yeah, and, these various stories are of, varying degrees of quality. After that, we have Spy by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. So, again, those are the creators of Superman. So, we're roughly a year after Superman, so they're probably trying to see what else they can make stick to the wall. After that, we have the Crimson Avenger. So, again, a masked superhero or a crime fighter. I don't know if they consider I don't know if they really consider the Crimson Avenger a superhero. But it's a very Green Hornet type of character here. And, he predates Batman. He was in previous issues of Detective Comics. But we have, a Crimson Avenger story here. After that, we have this Bruce Nelson story. And there is, I think there's like a voodoo artifact or something in the story. Yeah, that also has sort of like a bat motif in here. And again, we're dealing with a story from 1939, so not the most PC sort of thing going on here. There is a little disclaimer at the beginning of the book about that. So here we have a adaptation of a Fu Manchu story, and so this is more almost like a storybook sort of thing. So again, this is still early days of comics, so they're still kind of figuring out the format and playing around with different things. Yeah, so we have these sort of one-page gag comic strips thrown in here. We have a car here that looks a lot like the car from the cover of Action Comics #1 that Superman is smashing up. Got like a stamp collector ad here. Cosmo, the Phantom of Disguise. Again, this is, basically right before we got into World War II, so not the most flattering depiction of Asians and a lot of this stuff back then. Yeah, then we have this Plainclothes Pete strip here. I was expecting this to be more of a humor kind of thing by the style of art, but it really isn't. It's just, and it feels like it's maybe like the first chapter of a story. We've got that, and then at the end here we've got Slam Bradley again by Siegel and Schuster, and a character that has kind of stuck around in Gotham in the Batman comics. Slam Bradley had a big part of the Catwoman book years ago. So yeah, another character here that has persisted. Then we have, an ad here for a couple more comics, All American and then Movie Comics. And our last page, this would be the back cover of the original. You could send away for all this crazy stuff. Pistols and airplanes and how to throw your voice and a printing press. Make your own comics, I guess, kids. With that. And then, yeah, this is the back of the variant cover here. Yeah, so that's the first appearance of Batman there. So from 1939. And again, this is the San Diego variant. I know today for Batman Day they are releasing just the regular version of this, which is this here. And I want to say there's a foil variant cover this. I can't remember if they're doing a blank or not. But yeah, that's something you can get at a comic shop today. Kind of read this for yourself if you want to. But yeah, it's a fun look at first appearance of Batman and kind of what comics were back then. Again, this is something that's unattainable for most of us these days, the originals being so expensive. And when you do see reprints, it's usually just of the first Batman story in here. They don't typically include all the other features here. So it's kind of nice seeing all that stuff too. I know a few years ago DC had planned to do a collection of like all the issues of Detective before Batman, so it'd be like 1 through 26. And I think that got shot down, and I think it was because of sort of the racial depictions in the story, which it's just a fact of life. That's how things were back then. We're talking 85 years ago now, so it was a different time. You kind of get the same thing whenever seems like every 15 years or so DC decides they want to reprint the Shazam, Captain Marvel, Monster Society of Evil story, and then someone looks through it and realizes, oh, there's some really bad racial stereotypes in here, so that always kind of kills the project. But yeah, that's the first Batman comic there. Again, it's Batman Day. I've been running Batman videos all week here on the channel. I've got a Batman Week playlist up if you want to go back and take a look at those and check those out. Yeah, have you read this comic before? What are your thoughts on this first Batman story? It's 6 pages, which, sets up a character that's still around today. And thanks for watching. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter/X at Detective651, also on Instagram at Detective651. Be sure to check out my t-shirt store at tpublic.com/user/Detective651. I've got a lot of nerdy designs on there, and there's sales all the time, so check it out frequently.